HIPAA compliance is very important for every person involved with the Mesa Fire Medical Department. We will go over what HIPAA is, how to remain compliant, and the procedure if there is a breach. HIPAA is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. HIPAA was enacted in 1996 for two purposes. The first purpose was to streamline health insurance. The intent was to allow for patients' health records to transfer from different healthcare institutions as patients received different types of care or switched providers. To streamline this process, electronic health records have been promoted, and that is why EHRs are now the norm in the healthcare setting. The second purpose for HIPAA was to create standards for protecting personal health information, or PHI. PHI includes demographic information, medical conditions, tests, lab results, and insurance information. To assist with this regulation, the Privacy Rule was created in 2000 and was enforced in 2003. The Privacy Rule includes the fire department as a covered entity and regulates the use and disclosure of PHI. Some examples of PHI include names, relatives' names, addresses, employers, vehicle numbers, phone numbers, email addresses, photographs, fingerprints, dates relating to a patient, fax numbers, voice prints, social security number, URLs, medical record numbers, and employee numbers. HIPAA allows for disclosure of PHI to persons involved with the patient's care and other contact persons. These people may include blood relatives, spouses, roommates, boyfriends, girlfriends, domestic partners, neighbors, and colleagues. The disclosure should include only the minimum information necessary and should be directly relevant to the person's involvement with the patient's care. To remain compliant with HIPAA, there are several things you should keep in mind to ensure you stay privacy aware. First, restrict use and disclosure of PHI to the minimum necessary. This means to only disclose the minimum amount of PHI necessary for continued patient care or operations. Second, limit the discussion of PHI within. It may be necessary to converse and discuss PHI while on shift, but once the task or shift is done, discussion of the PHI should cease. For example, if a resident discloses to you that he or she has cancer while installing a smoke alarm at the resident's home, you should not converse about the patient's diagnosis with the next shift of connectors. Additionally, it is important to remember verbal and physical security to keep PHI confidential. This means that if you are in a public area, maintain confidentiality by not discussing PHI. Be sensitive of your voice level and who is around you. Keep PHI secure physically by securing all documents that contain PHI. Make sure to shred documents as necessary. However, there are some times when PHI needs to be disclosed. For example, the measles outbreak of 2014-2015 associated with Disneyland did require disclosure of PHI. This was necessary to reduce the spread of measles and to enhance multi-department and multi-state communication. Appropriate reporting of suspected child or elder abuse, neglect, or domestic violence is not a violation of HIPAA law and is another circumstance where PHI needs to be disclosed. If there is a disclosure in PHI, intentional or unintentional, you must report the disclosure to the EMS privacy officer and the connector coordinator. If a patient has a complaint about the policies or procedures for privacy and confidentiality, he or she should be directed to the privacy officer.